Shalom, giving all praise to Yahawah, Shemel, Shaiba, Shem, Qadash, Shalom to the 144,000 and the elect, the rest of the elect out there. And I'm going to title this video, Who are the 8 contrary feathers in 2nd Ezra chapter 11. So it was a question posed to me by the young elder out of Florida. Anyway, I'm going to go right into it. It says, then saw I a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle, which is the Roman Empire. And by the way, the 11th chapter and the 12th chapter of 2nd Ezra has nothing to do with America. Anybody saying that's talking about America, they don't understand these chapters here. Has nothing to do. These 2 chapters, the prophecies found in these 2 chapters have already taken place. So anybody that says, well, that's talking about America, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Bishop, the famous Bishop Nathaniel, you try to say it's America. He don't know. He doesn't understand. Because you know why he doesn't understand it? Because he was never taught it. See, remember, he's a master regurgitator. The stuff that he gives you that the people are amazed at, that follow him, is regurgitated stuff that he learned from the school. That's all he does. The man's not deep. He's not prolific, prolific, if I'm saying the word right. He's a regurgitator. And he wouldn't even touch this. He tried to touch it, and he botches it up. Anyway, 2nd verse, and I saw, and behold, she spread her Roman Empire, meaning as a she. The Babylon the Great is a she. Her wings over all the earth, all the known earth, and all the winds of the air blew on her and were gathered together. What does that mean? That means that they took those regions of various countries, and they took them down, and they came up under their grips, and they set up provinces. And that's what you do when you set up a kingdom. You set up provinces. We're going to do the same thing. And I beheld, and out of her feathers, so we know it's talking about the Roman Caesars, there grew other contrary feathers. So who are the contrary feathers? The contrary feathers, which are 8 in number, are some of the Caesars. Like, for example, Julius was not a contrary feather. He was not a small feather. It says 3rd verse, and I beheld, and out of her feathers, it's talking about the Caesars of Rome, there grew other contrary feathers. So we know that these are Romans. And they attempted to become great Caesars, and they became little feathers and small. They became insignificant. So the 8 feathers would be, and there's no history on it. I can't go into the history. There's no cheat sheet. The first 2 would be, if my history is correct, I don't want to do no digging, but you had Julius Caesar, but Julius Caesar, you had what was called the first triumvirate. You know what I'm going to do? Let me do this, because I ain't gone through this in a while. The first triumvirate of Rome. The first triumvirate
was an informal political alliance among 3 prominent politicians in the late Roman Republic. Gaius Julius Caesar, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, and Marcus Licinius Crassus.
Okay, thank you. Julius Caesar, Pompey or Pompeius, and Crassus. And there's their full names: Gaius, Julius, Caesar, and Caesar. They all became Caesars after this name. This was his name that, like in a Kaiser would be what is it? A czar. Czar in Russian is Russian for Caesar. Kaiser is German for Caesar. Okay, so you got Gaius Julius Caesar, Genuus Pompeius Magnus, and Marcus Licinius Crassus. So we call him Julius or Julius Caesar, Pompeius, and Crassus. So now let's come back over here since we got the names correct. And I beheld, and out of her feathers there grew other contrary feathers, and they became little feathers and small. Let's come back over here. He became a great feather. He actually became a head. I'm gonna get into that. These two they were jockeying for position. They were generals and so forth. Going back into the history, I know he was a general. A lot of your Caesars came out of being general. Vespasian was a general under a Nero, and I believe under what's this guy that banished the Christians. I forget his name. Bear me for a minute. Who banished the Israelites in Acts 18? Can't even think of his name. Let me do this. Let me do this. List of Roman emperors. Always forget his name. Okay, this is Augustus. He was definitely not a contrary feather. He's a major guy. He lived, scholars say 41, others say 44 years. The one that you ruled closest in years to him was half of that, less than half of that, which was Tiberius. All right, let me go into the list. Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, and he was most likely a contrary. Like I said, there's no cheat sheet on this. Yeah, Claudius. Nero was a major guy. He's here now. That's Trump. And these guys are all related, just like all the presidents are related. Uncle of Caligula, grandnephew of Augustus. They were all family. Proclaimed emperor by the Praetorian Guard, the military, and accepted by the Senate. Then you got Nero. Nero was a major feather, not a contrary feather. Grandnephew, stepson-in-law, and adopted son of Claudius. Great grandson of what? Augustus. They were all related. Now, this guy's mother, Agrippina, had got with this guy, so he became his adopted, his adopted son. But she killed this guy, poisoned him, so he could be the new emperor. But she wanted to be the empress, but she was using a 16-year-old son. That's how he got into office as a young man. Came into office at 16, and it says he committed. He killed himself. He's heavily taxing the people. People rejected him. He said he couldn't deal with the shame, and he killed himself. These also, Galba, Otho Vitalis. Okay, he committed. So a lot of these motherfuckers committed suicide. Now, the scholars say that he woke up and committed suicide because he had a dream that he committed suicide. Others say that he committed suicide because they were after him. They're going to get him. So he said he going to get himself before they get me. But like I said, there's different views by these different scholars because they wasn't back. They didn't have a time machine, right? So these would be 3 of the 8 contrary feathers. See, they give you that list, right? You notice it says year of the 4 emperors. You notice they didn't mention Vespasian because Vespasian wound up being the prominent Caesar. These guys only ruled for inside of months. Look, Galba, 7 months and 7 days. Murdered by soldiers of the what? Praetorian Guard. Who's a Praetorian Guard? The Praetorian Guard was an elite unit of Imperial Roman army that served as personal bodyguards and intelligence agents for the Roman emperor. So if this guy's the head, why would they kill this guy? Because you had guys in the back, background. Secret government, man. These are just front guys, just like the presidents today. They just front guys. Then you had Otho. He only ruled for 3 months and 1 day. Hence, year of the 4 emperors. So he was a contrary feather. Seized power through a coup against Galba. So he had the heirs of the Praetorian Guard. A lot of these motherfuckers killed Nero killed his own mother. Let me see. Committed suicide after losing the battle of Barak come to Vitalis. So he killed himself, and Vitalis, they were going at each other. So Vitalis came in. He didn't even rule a year. 8 months and 1 day. Governor of Germania Inferior, who was the governor of Campania during the Herculum Vespasian. So they were governors, they were Senate people, governor of Germania Inferior. Right, you had a Germania Inferior and a Germania Major. Not no Russian. Don't listen to Bishop Nate with his Russia was part of the 7 heads. Russia was never part of the 7 heads. Russia didn't come in on the scene as a power until about 850 AD. That was long after Esau went down, the Roman Empire went down, and Jake ruled it. So Russia was never part of the 7, so stop it. It said proclaimed emperor by the Rhine Legion, which are the military, because ultimately who has the power? The military. On 2 January in opposition to Galba and Otho. So he was behind killing this guy. Well, they said he was behind killing all of them, but he killed himself because he knew he's going to, well, there it is. That is shame. Well, here it goes. Murdered by Vespasian's troops. So who killed this bugger? This guy, Otho. Who's behind this guy killing himself? This guy, Vitellius, murdered by Vespasian's troops. When it speaks about the eagle being on fire, Nero with Rome being burnt down, because there was no record of any of these guys. There was a major fire. When you read about a major historical fire in ancient Rome, they're gonna mention Nero. That's the fire, and so at that time, he ruled for how many years? He ruled for what? 14 years, almost 14 years. He committed suicide. Committed suicide after being deserted by the Praetorian Guard and sentenced to death by the Senate. So he said, fuck that, I'm gonna kill myself. So these guys really didn't have they were just figureheads. So who was behind killing these guys? He committed suicide because he was gonna get killed by the Praetorian Guard anyway. You go into the history of war, man. A lot of you had, and most of these guys were, a lot of these guys were generals in the military, not so much Senate. Vespasian was a general under who is this? Nero. Doesn't tell you that though. So he was not a contrary feather. He very well is a contrary feather. He wasn't a major character. Oh, so it was they saying that Nerva was the guy that killed. He was assassinated in a conspiracy of court officials, possibly involving Nerva. Who's Nerva? That's the first. Are you taking notes, Bishop Nathaniel? That's the first Jake. That's the first Jake to rule. That's when we started ruling. First of the 5 good emperors. Why was he known as the 5 good emperors? Because he was doing good things for the people. Died of natural causes. And these guys here are all Jake. You notice they got beards. Now, he didn't have a beard. You notice these Jakes had, Hadrian was a Jake. And Antonius Pius was a Jake. You see the beard. Marcus Aurelius, Jake. You see the hair is curly, ain't straight. Lucius Verus was a Jake, which I believe he was the adopted son, a son-in-law, adopted son of, and right, they kept it in the family, so to speak. Adopted son of Antonius Pius, joint emperor with the adopted brother Marcus. So they were brothers. They weren't blood brothers though. And this is Commodus, son of Marcus Aurelius. That was his actual son. You can see the beard. This bust right here, he has like I think a lion's head cap or whatever you call it. And he didn't kill his father. Bullshit. It says what? The movie said he killed his father. It said he died in natural causes. He was a stoic, a disciplinarian. He wasn't into wealth and riches and living good. He wasn't a Epicurean. Strangled to death in a conspiracy involving his Praetorian perfect Lutus and mistress. Right, he had a chick on his side. Well, they were saying it was his sister was behind it, but it was mistress, and it was a wrestler that did a rear naked choke on his ass. But the 12 stops here. The 12 stops here. And as I said, some of the 8 are part of the actual 12 and some wasn't. You had the prominent guys, which Julius Caesar was known as a head. He was a head that fell asleep and came back to life, and he came back to life as he had to have come back to life as either Titus or Vespasian. We don't have records of that. Moreover, I beheld, and lo, the eagle flew with her feathers and reigned upon earth and over them that dwell therein. I saw that all things under heaven were subject unto her. The known heaven. Remember, the northern kingdom was on the other side of the world. Romans didn't know nothing about that. And no man spake against her, no, not one creature upon the earth. And I beheld, and lo, the eagle rose up her talons and spake to her feathers, saying, watch not all at once, sleep everyone in his own place. Right. Julius got murdered. Augustus came on the scene. Tiberius came on the scene. Caligula, and so forth. So when one died, the other one came in. A lot of them killed each other. And watch by course. But let the heads be preserved for the last. So who's the heads? The head represents Julius, but it also represents Crassus and Pompeius. So they had to come back. Julius, Pompeius, and Crassus had to come back as Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian, and not in any order. It said, preserve the head, but let the heads be preserved for the last. That's clearly Julius and the two men, like I said, what's his name? Crassus and Pompeius came back as Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. So Titus and Domitian were considered like lesser feathers to Vespasian, which was the father. He was a more prominent. Also, Pompeius and Crassus were insignificant as far as Julius Caesar is concerned, because they were called a head. The heads came back again. So you should understand it now, you know. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.